Hey, what's up, good people? I'm QC. Welcome to a special edition of Talk. This is a special live stream here tonight. This is more like an impromptu live stream, you know, as today is December 31st. Not only we're about to go into a new year, we're also about to go into a new decade, which is 2020. Man, shoot. When I was about 17, I thought 2020 was so far away, but little did I know it was actually very close. For those of y'all, first off, I want to wish a happy new year. I wanted to get on here and do this before the ball drops and it hits midnight and we're into January 1st, 2020. You know, As you come in, make sure you hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Don't make it your last. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon. And also make sure you click all so you don't miss any new videos or live streams from me. Chat. I want to see your comments in the chat. Want to know how y'all doing? What you plan on getting into for the new year? Do you have any New Year's resolutions? What are your goals for this new year? And also, what's your goals for this decade? One of my main goals is to keep this channel growing so I can continue to bring more quality content to y'all. I've enjoyed doing this for the past three and a half years. I want to keep on going. I want to expand. I want to do more things. I just don't want to be here in the studio all the time. I want to get back on the road a little bit more. One of my goals is to start visiting different stadiums, ballparks, and arenas around the country in 2020. So hopefully I can do that. Now, what I'm about to grub on, it's cold up here in Cleveland. Man, we just had some snow and it's cold and windy in Cleveland. So I decided to keep warm by grubbing on some of this Progresso roasted chicken noodle soup. Just make sure y'all see it. All right, here we go. Okay, about to get into this soup. Ooh, good and hot. It's good too. All right, put that down. Okay, let me get into what I'm about to do. All right, as we say goodbye to the 2010s, man, there were some memorable things that happened in sports throughout this decade. Also, some special players came on the scene. Some players extended, the greatness they already had. Some finally got over the hump and got the elusive title that they had been seeking for their whole career. So tonight, I came up with my list of the top 10 NBA players of the 2010s. Now, this was a tough list because there were some great players, in this decade who did a lot of great things in the NBA. But, there can only be 10. So now I'm about to get to my top 10. And here it goes. Number 10, I got Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak. you know, he had a slow rise to the top from being one of the best players in the NBA today. His rookie year during the 13-14 season, he only averaged 6 points and 4.5 rebounds per game. You know, a lot of people were not paying attention to him because he was drafted later as opposed to earlier. So nobody was not sure what he was going to be. But, you know, he kept on growing. Also, he kept on working on his game. And he finally started having a breakout year in during the 2016-17 season when he had 22 points per game, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists. And ever since then, the Greek Freak has turned into an NBA superstar. Plus, he was in the conversation for Oops. Plus, he's definitely improved on his 3-ball as well. That's another thing he's improved on, his 3-point shot. And also, he was last year's NBA MVP as he led the Bucks to the best record in the league. Unfortunately, they couldn't hold on to the 2-0 lead they had against the Toronto Raptors in the Eastern Conference Finals as the Raptors stormed back to win 4 in a row and win the series in 6. And then they went on to beat the Golden State Warriors in the NBA Finals last year, capturing their first franchise championship. And I think the Greek Freak is definitely going to get a lot better in these 20s. His star is definitely going to shine even brighter in this decade than it already has. So I definitely hope he wins a championship in his career. Who knows? Maybe he might bring it home for the Bucks this season. Soup is good, y'all. All right. That's number 10. Number 9. At number 9, I have Chris Paul. Now, Chris Paul originally was drafted in 2005 by the then New Orleans Hornets, which is now the New Orleans Pelicans. Excuse me. And Chris Paul definitely came into this league, had a pretty nice rookie year, scoring 16 points per game and also averaged 7 assists. He spent about 6 years in New Orleans. Then he was actually supposed to get traded to the LA Lakers, but the NBA, ended up shutting down that trade because at that time, the Hornets did not have an owner and it was owned by the NBA. So all the NBA owners got together and decided to veto the trade for Chris Paul to the Lakers. And a lot of Laker fans to this day are very upset still about that trade not going down. Who knows what could have happened if CP3 would have went to the Lakers. Maybe the Lakers win another championship or two. But he was traded to LA eventually, to the Clippers, that is. And him and Blake Griffin created a new dynamic duo called Lob City because they used to throw a lot of because Chris Paul used to throw a lot of alley-oops to Blake Griffin. And those Clipper teams were pretty good. I thought they could have, definitely got at least got into the NBA Finals. I don't know if they would have won, but I definitely thought they would get into the NBA Finals because they had a pretty good team. They had DeAndre Jordan, who was one of the best big men in the league, blocking shots, dunking everything. But for some reason, when it came to the playoffs, they had failures. You know, I never figured out why the Clippers could never get over the hump. So CP3 played for 5 seasons in LA with the Clippers. You know, as a matter of fact, also, it took a long time for CP3 to even reach the conference finals. He finally got to the conference finals in 2018 with the Rockets, but unfortunately, Chris Paul ended up being injured in Game 5 of that series against the Warriors, and the Warriors went on to win in 7 games. In my opinion, I think if CP3 would have played Game 6, the Houston Rockets would have won that series. But that's just my opinion. Then he gets traded to the Thunder. In the offseason. You know, after his stint with the Rockets, as the Rockets acquired Russell Westbrook from the Thunder for him and James Harden to reunite, to play together again. So it's just now CP3 is one of the top point guards of this era, of this decade, and it's a shame that he doesn't have the accolades that he deserves, because that man definitely deserves an NBA championship. He should have definitely won a title. And it's just a shame that he hasn't. Okay, about to get to my number 7 player. All right, at number 7, I have Anthony Davis. I have Anthony Davis at number 7. Now, AD, since he's coming to the league in 2012, has become one of the most great big men in the league. You know, and this man was just coming off of a national championship with Kentucky at that time. You know, in his rookie year, he was pretty solid. He averaged 13 points, 8 rebounds per game. But then he definitely took off in the next season, averaging 20 and 10. He averaged a double-double for his second year. As well, matter of fact, for about a good 6-7 seasons in a row, AD averaged a double-double with the Pelicans. And also, he finally led them to the playoffs in 2015, where unfortunately they were swept by the eventual NBA champion Golden State Warriors, you know, but he didn't have his point guard Jrue Holiday in that series because he was injured. And then AD demanded a trade out of New Orleans, and now he's teamed up with LeBron James on the LA Lakers. And they have become the dynamic duo dating back to the great Laker teams, you know, such as Shaq and Kobe, Magic and Kareem, even Weston Baylor. As now Anthony Davis is seeking his first NBA championship of his career. You know, and I definitely think he has a great chance of capturing his first NBA title this year with the Lakers. But, you know, the Lakers definitely have to get some things together, like their chemistry as well as their bench, and also the role players have to step up for the Lakers. But AD definitely has a shot at getting his first championship this season. And he's definitely going to, you know, put his stamp on the 2020s as well. So I definitely can't wait to see what AD accomplishes next. And hopefully he has some rings on his resume. All right, at number 6, I got Russell Westbrook. Now, Russell Westbrook, he did his thing with the Thunder for many years. Him, KD, and James Harden early in his James Harden early in his career when he was coming off the bench. But it just seemed like him and KD could never get their chemistry together. It's like, whose turn was it to take over on some nights? Did KD want to take over or Russ wanted to take over? But the last couple of seasons, Russell Westbrook has averaged a triple-double. That means double points, double rebounds, and double assists. And that's one hell of a feat that hasn't been done since the great Oscar Robertson did it back in the day. And he also won MVP a couple of seasons ago, for the first time in his career. But, Russ became a little disinterested in the Thunder. So the Thunder traded him this offseason to the Rockets to reunite with his teammate James Harden as they trade away Chris Paul. Now, him and Harden, they've been pretty solid, but time will tell to see if this duo will work in Houston, as they try to win a championship. But the only thing that's going to keep them back is lack of defense. They definitely need some more defense. All right. 5 down, 5 more to go. At number 5, I have the Beard, James Harden. Now, as I just mentioned, James Harden was originally drafted by the OKC Thunder. He was coming off the bench to back up Russell Westbrook, and he was a hell of a player coming off the bench, for most of his stint in OKC. But in the 2012 NBA Finals, Harden was a no-show. He barely had any point. He barely scored any points off the bench, and that was a key factor of the OKC Thunder losing to the Miami Heat in 5 quick games. But then the Thunder front office did not want to give James Harden a new contract, so they shipped him off to Houston, and this man has been a star ever since he's been traded to the Rockets. It's like when Ice Cube left NWA and he started to really blossom on his own as a superstar. As James Harden averaged 25 points as well as 5 assists and 4 rebounds per game in his first season with the Rockets. And this man's numbers have just been growing and growing and growing. Last year, he averaged 30 points, 5 rebounds, as well as 8 assists per game. And this year, the year before, my mistake. Last year, he averaged 36 points, 8 assists, and 5 rebounds per game. And he's on the, he might be on the verge of eclipsing those same numbers again this season. So, James Harden going to the Rockets was a right choice, because if he would have stayed in OKC with KD and Westbrook, who knows? He probably would still be in their shadow. And also, he was named MVP in 2018. I almost forgot about that. But James Harden, it has had an amazing rise to stardom here in the NBA in this decade. He went from bench player to superstar just like that. And I'm anxious to see what he's going to do more in the 2010s. For those, if you hear in the chat, do y'all agree with this list so far, or do you think I should have? Or you think I should have picked some different players? Oh, and also, I skipped over y'all. I apologize, y'all. I went on a tangent. went on a little bit of a tangent. I skipped before I go to number 4. Gotta track back to number 8, and my number 8 player is Klay Thompson. Now, Klay Thompson, one half of the famous Splash Brothers duo with Steph Curry. You know, they've been lighting it up. Been lighting it up a whole lot from the 3-point line during this decade, because both of them can go off at any time in a game. Excuse me. And also, their 3-point shooting has become such a highlight reel all over sports, as well as the sports talk shows. And Klay, he had a slow rise, to superstardom after being drafted. Just want to make sure I got it right. After being drafted 11th overall in the 2011 draft. His rookie year, he averaged 12 points and only two assists, excuse me. But his numbers started growing and growing in the last 2 seasons, as he averaged 16 points and 18 points per game, respectively. But then, and he was a vital part of winning their first championship in 40 years in 2015, as he averaged 21 points per game and also averaged 2 assists per game. And he definitely had some hella 3-point shooting numbers that year as well. But another thing Klay doesn't get credit for is his defense. He is a great perimeter defender. He can shut down a lot of opposing point guards as well as shooting guards. They don't give him a lot of credit. Nobody gives Klay enough credit for his defense. As a matter of fact, in 2019, he was named NBA All-Defensive Second Team. So that man's defense definitely is very underrated. And he's definitely been vital in the Warriors winning 3 championships this decade. But some of his numbers in the playoffs have, definitely dwindled from the regular season for some reason. I never figured out why. In 2015 in the playoffs, he only averaged 18 points, but in the regular season, he averaged 21. Now, 2016, in which they lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers, he averaged 24 throughout the playoffs. But then in 17, he averaged only 15. And 18, he averaged 19 points per game. But, excuse me, but Klay can be a one-man wrecking crew, as he scored 30 plus points against the Sacramento Kings in a game a few years ago, and that was in the first half. So, Klay Thompson is definitely one of the best shooting guards of this decade. Now, I can go to number 4, and that's his fellow Splash brother, Steph Curry. Now, Steph was drafted 7th overall in 2009, straight out of Davidson. And he came into the league pretty nice, He definitely had a rep for his shooting even back then. And he scored 17 points and had 5 assists, per game in his first season. And that was when he was still playing with Monte Ellis. But then he also got sidelined a little bit because he had a very bad injury earlier on in his career. But when he came back stronger. In the 2012-13 season, he averaged 22 points as well as 6 assists per game, Also, then in 2015, he won MVP, won his first championship. He averaged 23 points as well as 7 assists per game. But Mark Jackson said that, that he and Klay Thompson can be the best backcourt in the NBA when he was coaching the Golden State Warriors. And a lot of people laughed at him and just looked at him like he was crazy. But he was right. They both became one of the best backcourts in the NBA. As a matter of fact, I think they're one of the best backcourts of all time. Now, 2016, Steph won his second straight MVP. He was the first player to ever be named voted unanimous MVP. That means he did something that MJ, Bird, Magic, Kobe, Shaq, or LeBron has never done. Be voted unanimous MVP, as the Golden State Warriors had a 73-9 record, eclipsing the Bulls' 72 win record in the 95-96 season, but they will ultimately, lose a 3-1 lead and lose to the Cleveland Cavaliers in 7 games. But Steph ended up joining forces with KD a year later, and they won back-to-back NBA championships in 2017 and 2018. Now, Steph, he's done a hell of a job, since coming into the league. In some ways, he has revolutionized the game. Excuse me. He's accomplished so much being the smallest guy on the court. He's done a lot being part of that 50 and 40-40 club. I hope I said that right. And the dude's only about 6 feet. So yeah, I'll admit he's done a hell of a job. Some people even one person said that he's a GOAT point guard. I wouldn't go that far. He's done great, but I definitely wouldn't call that point guard. But that's just me. That's just me. I definitely would not call Steph a GOAT at point guard. There are a lot of point guards that have done more than what Steph has. All right. 7 down, 3 more to go. All right. So at number 3, I have Kawhi Leonard. Now, Kawhi, he's been very quiet. He went below the radar in the NBA draft, as he was drafted, as he was drafted 15th overall in the first round by the Indiana Pacers in 2011. And then the Spurs he ended up being traded to the San Antonio Spurs, as the Pacers gave them George Hill. As the Spurs gave the Pacers George Hill. And they definitely didn't want George Hill to go because he was well liked by his teammates and Greg Popovich. But, Kawhi, he struggled a bit in his rookie season, as he only scored 7 points and had 5 rebounds per game. But he never stopped working and continued to work, and continued to work on improving his game. And that hard work paid off in 2014, won his first NBA championship by knocking off the Miami Heat in 5 quick games, as Kawhi Leonard was named NBA Finals MVP. The main reason why he had Finals MVP because of the defense he played on LeBron throughout that whole series. And he did one hell of a job. His nickname is the Claw, and he definitely was the Claw in that series against LeBron, locking him up defensively. Now, his numbers were not great in that series, but they were well enough to win, as he averaged 17 points, also had 6 rebounds and only 2 assists. But he ended up, playing great defense on LeBron. That's the main reason why he won that Finals MVP. And after that, his numbers just kept on growing. The next year he averaged 16 points and 7 rebounds per game. Then 2015-16 season, he averaged 21 points and 6 rebounds per game. And before our eyes, Kawhi Leonard grew into a superstar, for Popovich and the San Antonio Spurs. But then he would have a severe injury during the Western Conference Finals in 2017, where, Zaza Pachulia ended up tripping him, and Kawhi ended up missing the rest of the playoffs and that next season. Well, most of that next season, excuse me. He tried to come back in 2017-18 season, but he still didn't feel right with that injury. He only played 9 games. He spent that whole season recovering. Some people in the Spurs thought he was faking and trying to quit, but that wasn't the case. I think the man knew his body. He just wanted to be at 100% before he went back out there again. But Kawhi became very frustrated with the Spurs, how they handled his injury, and he demanded a trade. He ended up being traded to the Toronto Raptors, which a lot of people didn't see coming. But once Kawhi got there, he turned the Toronto Raptors into an instant championship contender. Excuse me. And this year, he led the Toronto Raptors to their first NBA championship by knocking off the Golden State Warriors in 6 games. That was the first time a team outside of the U.S. won the NBA title. And Kawhi played a hell of a series. He was a man amongst boys as he won his second Finals MVP and proved that he could win one on his own. And he had a dominating series as he averaged 28 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists per game. He really put his stamp on this series. So that man will ever be beloved in Toronto. He's a Raptors legend forever. But Kawhi decided to leave the Raptors after one season, decided to go back home to LA to play for the Clippers in this offseason. And now he's trying to bring the Clippers their first NBA championship. And the Clippers, they've been looking pretty nice this season, him and Paul George. They also have Patrick Beverley, Lou Williams. So the Clippers definitely have a chance to win it all this year. Or if they don't, they'll definitely have their chances to win it all. Because that team is very talented. And I think they could definitely give the Lakers a run for their money in the playoffs if they were to see each other. Okay, we got 2 more to go. Got 2 more to go. Okay. Now, the final 2 players are KD and LeBron. Can you guess which one is number 2? I give you about 5 seconds. All right, 10 seconds. All right, since y'all didn't guess, the number 2 player I have is Kevin Durant. Now, KD, although he was originally drafted in 2007, by the then Seattle Supersonics in their final year in Seattle before they moved to OKC, KD has definitely put his stamp on this decade as he's just been balling in the 2009-10 season. He finally led the Thunder to the playoffs for the first time in a long time, ever since about 2005. I hope I had that correct. And that season he averaged 30 points and 7 rebounds per game. Matter of fact, he won the scoring championship 4 out of 5 seasons. He won it in 2010, 11, 12, and 13. Also, back in 2014, he was named the NBA MVP. And then in 2012, he led the Thunder to the NBA Finals, where they ultimately lost to the Miami Heat in 5 games. I definitely thought the Thunder was going to win that series after, the way they played against the Spurs. I definitely thought the Thunder was definitely going to win that series. But I was wrong. So KD was missing that elusive NBA championship, and he decided to go on and finally seek it. So in the summer 2016, Durant signed with the Golden State Warriors, who were coming off of a 73-9 season. And, that team was deadly once they got KD, because they just took off and started running and just balling, as they had the best record in the league at 67-15 that year. And they dominated the playoffs by just either sweeping teams or beating them in 5 games. And the Warriors were matched up against the Cleveland Cavaliers once again in the NBA. The Warriors were looking for revenge, and Kevin Durant definitely finally had his finals moment as he hit the go-ahead 3, just ran down to the other end of the court, pulled up, and hit the go-ahead 3 to give the Warriors that 3-0 lead in the NBA Finals. And the Warriors would go on to defeat the Cleveland Cavaliers in 5 games. So Durant finally won his first NBA championship, and he was named Finals MVP. Then in 2018, Durant won his championship by beating the Cavs again in 4 straight games for his second Finals MVP. Now, excuse me, it looked like the Warriors were heading towards the 3-peat, but ultimately in last year's playoffs, KD ended up getting injured in the second round, and he was out for a while. He came back in Game 5 of the NBA Finals against the Raptors, but he tore his Achilles during the second quarter of that game and he ended up missing the rest of the NBA Finals, and now he is out for the rest of the season. This offseason, Durant signed with the Brooklyn Nets, teaming up with Kyrie Irving. So I'm anxious to see how they're going to play together once he comes back, and, can he really be that dominant player once again? I think he will, but it's going to be interesting to see what KD can do once he's on the Nets. All right. Now, here's the number 1 player, my number 1 player of the 2010s, and that player is LeBron James. Now, LeBron has definitely put his stamp on his decade in a lot more ways than one, not just on the court, but off the court. In 2010, the start of this decade, he did something that no other big name free agent in any sport had ever done. He put on the decision special on ESPN, and he announced that he was taking his talents to South Beach and joining the Miami Heat. Now, I'm a Clevelander and a Cavs fan. I didn't appreciate that move because, this was just me in 2010 talking when I say this. How dare you go on TV, national TV, and, slap us in the face like that? No, I did not burn any jerseys. But, I was upset on how he did it. I wasn't mad that he went to Miami. He was trying to win championships. I just didn't like that he went on national TV to do it. But that's another discussion for another time. But LeBron showed players in sports how much power they have and how much leverage they have, by doing that decision special. and that definitely influenced KD to go to Golden State. It's still influencing a lot of players now. It influenced Kawhi to be traded. I mean, he didn't go to LA like he wanted. He ended up in Toronto, but it ultimately led him going to LA. But, excuse me. Now, once LeBron got to the Miami Heat, they had their struggle starting out, but they righted the ship, in their first season and got to the NBA Finals where they lost to the Dallas Mavericks. And LeBron definitely came up short in that NBA Finals because he did not play to his full potential. He wasn't aggressive and physical as he's always been, and that was his lowest point total, in all of his NBA Finals appearances. And LeBron deserved all the scrutiny he got for the way he played in that NBA Finals. No way in the world he should have been outplayed by cats like Jason Terry or JJ Barea. That's not the move. But, he went back to the drawing board and got back to himself. And the next year, the Heat ended up winning the NBA championship by beating the Thunder in 5 games. Now, a lot of people thought that title was a fluke because it was in a shortened season because the NBA had the lockout. The NBA didn't start until Christmas Day that year, so people wasn't sure if they were going to repeat with a full season. Well, the Heat definitely outdid themselves in the 2012-13 season as they went on a 27-game winning streak and ended up winning 66 games. And, they ultimately beat the San Antonio Spurs in 7 hard-fought games. Especially Game 6 Game 6 and 7 were classic games, especially Ray Allen hitting that 3-pointer in Game 6 to tie the game to send it into OT. So LeBron had won 2 NBA championships, back-to-back finals MVPs, proving that he did belong on the pantheon on the same level as, Kobe, Magic, Bird, etc. Then the Heat got back to the NBA Finals once again in 2014, playing the Spurs. And the Spurs were more ready, motivated, and battle-tested as they had the best record in the league. And they demolished the Heat in 5 quick games. So now the question was for LeBron, what was he going to do after taking such a beating in the NBA Finals? Was he going to stay with the Heat or go somewhere else? Well, LeBron realized he had unfinished business. So in an essay to SportsIllustrated.com, he announced that he was coming home and coming back to Cleveland to play for the Cavs. To join Kyrie Irving. And then Kevin Love came into the fold. Their first season together, started off a little bit rocky. They were even 19-20, but they righted the ship, ended up with the 2nd seed, got to the NBA Finals, but the Cavs ended up losing Kevin Love in the first round against the Celtics, and then Kyrie in Game 1 of the Finals. And the Cavs will ultimately fall to the Golden State Warriors in 6 games. Now, 2015-16, the Cavs were more motivated and determined to bring that long, elusive championship to Cleveland. They went through some bumps and bruises, including replacing a head coach in the middle of the season. But they ultimately got the number 1 spot in the East and mostly dominated through the East, and then got back to the finals to play the Golden State Warriors, who were 73-9. Then the Cavs found themselves down 3-1, and a lot of people said that they were done because no team had ever come back from a 3-1 deficit in the NBA Finals. But LeBron was more than motivated to make history and bring home the championship to Cleveland. So, games 5 and 6, he had 41-point games. And then game 7 in Oakland, he averaged a triple-double, and he made the now iconic block on Andre Iguodala to set up Kyrie Irving to hit the go-ahead three-pointer, which gave the Cavs the lead and the championship for the first time in franchise history. And LeBron came home and broke the long Cleveland pro sports championship drought of 52 years. LeBron was named unanimous finals MVP as he had led players on both teams in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks throughout the whole series. So that title in Cleveland, that was his magnum opus. That was, that's the biggest accomplishment of his career. So his legacy definitely, went way higher after winning that championship for Cleveland. The Cavs would make it to 2 more finals against Golden State, where they would lose both of them in 5 and 4 respectively. So after the 2017-18 season, LeBron went to the Lakers, and now he's trying to restore the Lakers back to greatness and trying to get them and trying to win them their 17th NBA title in franchise history, tying the Boston Celtics. So, excuse me. So definitely can't wait to see if LeBron can pull off that big of a feat. Will he pull it off this year with him and AD? Only time will tell. Well, that's it, y'all. That's my top 10 NBA players of the 2010s. What do you think? Did y'all agree with this list, or did y'all disagree? If you watch the playback, I want to see your comments in the chat. Now, you can donate to the channel via Cash App or PayPal. To help me keep this channel going so I can continue to make more quality content for y'all. Okay, gonna get the PayPal link. All right. Okay, there's the PayPal link. Also, you can buy official Talking and Grubbing merchandise at the shop on Teespring. About to leave you the link to that right now. From now till January 31st, you can get 20% off by entering this promo code. I'm about to leave the promo code here in this chat. Or you can get free shipping on your item by entering this promo code. All right, there it is. There's the Teespring link. There's the 20% off promo code and the free shipping promo code. Well, I'm about to get out of here, y'all. It's been fun. I enjoyed going over this list. It was a tough list to compile, but there could only be 10. There were so many more players that done so much in this decade, but it was a tough list to put together, excuse me. But These were the players who definitely defied this decade, and some of these players are definitely going to defy this upcoming decade. But I got to get out of here, y'all. You know, I want to watch the ball drop. You know, to see 2020 come upon us. So I'm going to get out of here. Y'all have a good one. Love y'all to life. QC out. And y'all have a safe and happy new year.